Okay, why is the REB significant? Well, in relationship to the Tarantula song, I think of Wilbur and Charlotte from Charlotte's Web. Okay? Now, Charlotte saves Wilbur's life, and um, then she dies with after she has tons and tons and tons of children. But she saves his life because she taught him how to, or she made it look like he knew how to be a pig that could read or a pig that could write by putting words in her spider web. And so, we're not, and then also, okay, so that Charlotte's Web story is written by E.B. White. And my grandfather's name is Earl Burns. His middle name is Clarence. Okay. So you have that deeper connection with the idea of a grandfather, um, also being in Ren's name. Now you also have this idea about what I have discussed about abortion and how I had a friend who I went with to get an abortion, and her grandfather talked her out of it. Now, on the way to that appointment, the I tried to name the baby Gilbert. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to bring up was that when you consider the power of your voice, just because her grandfather made that one phone call to the clinic to say, no, do not do it, she listened to him. Okay. So that was her caregiver who was also guiding her with her choices. So you have to consider that when you talk to people. So that's one point I wanted to make. The other thing was that um, I used to watch the show Reba with my grandmother, and I never really was connecting these things together. But in that show, the girl's name, it's like the people's name are Cheyenne and Van, and they have a baby, and then they have to live with Reba because they're too young to know, or that's the story, anyways. They need her parenting help because they had the baby so young. Okay, so there you have that situation. Now, um, the other friend that I had named Bethany, um, she, I was asked to go with her to have an abortion, and I tried to separate myself from that being my choice. That I was just doing what she asked of me, and so with that recognition, I have a sense of remorse um, that I could have used my voice to say something to her about that instead of just doing what she asked me to do. Like Shanna's grandfather did. And I could have tried to get her to think about it. I could have done all these kinds of things instead of just being like, that's her choice, not my choice. Uh, I could have been much more caring in that circumstance, and then seeing what she wanted to do. I could have done that. Now looking back, I know that it's over and done with. But if I could be a time traveler, I would do that. And if you can't be a time traveler, I think sometimes maybe the best thing to do is to add value to your past by, what did I say, paying homage to it because of your remorse or your regret or your sorrow, or you wish you would have done something differently that was more caring in the circumstance. Um, Quit, Bertha. So, what else about this pig idea? And hey, quit! The how Wilbur Wilbur's life gets saved, and y'all stop it. How Wilbur's life gets saved because of a spider. Well, um, like one of the things is that let's see. I suppose with this idea that Ren has implanted with the concept of the grandfather and the baby having gotten saved, that quit, you guys, now, that it is very possible that he is placing hope into a circumstance with these connections that we have drawn together. Because if he called me, if he's trying to call me greedy now for being a monopolist instead of being greedy because I want too many children, then I think he's saying that it is greedy to decide to abort the mission plan of having a family. But that's my interpretation of the situation, because I don't know. And also in the fact that the spider Charlotte dies in Charlotte's Web, it is symbolic of um, of getting privacy after saving a life, or getting on your feet, if you want to think of it that way. That spy aspect of needing to be watched is gone, because you're doing all right, or you're doing good for yourself. So there's another element in that idea. um and as far as like tying these two things together with the Sebastian idea, the chin that Sebastian, that I was fond of because of Sebastian's name, was for one reason. I used to laugh about this little chin hair that I have, the little white chin hair that I have, and I used to say, not by the hair of my chinny chin, um, whenever I would see it, which is an old nursery rhyme. And you have like, just, there's different things that I have used this pig um and in such, and Ren has too, this pig in such inspiring ways. And the pig is a good omen, depending upon how you use the pig. And one of my, of course, I've already talked about this. One of my nicknames used to be Cheeky, because I had a potbelly pig named Cheeky, and that pig lived for a very long time. Um, it wasn't really a friendly pig, but there's so many ideas. I used that pig idea to go along with the thinking about the birth of Sebastian. I used that pig idea to go through that loss of my ovary with the name Sebastian. Except I didn't know it then. I his name was I didn't think of the chin connection with Sebastian back then, but now I do, and so it's soothing to me to connect these concepts together. Um, let's see. Um, how else can I connect that? The pig, the pig, the pig. I think that's good for now. I might touch on it later, but I think I tried to explain that the best way I can. The hope through Charlotte's Web has to do with the idea of grandfather. Now, I had said before that becoming a grandparent in the internal way is really what is happening when you're becoming an external parent, because you've already successfully figured out how to parent yourself. It's just the way that you're looking at that situation. So Rin is, and I would like to say, I still have these issues with wanting fidelity and sexual fidelity and trust in those areas, and that's very important to me. However, I can tell that Rin is extremely, he very much understands all of these connections in this sort of like the same way that I do, and how they interlace together. And so um, I have to continue to put out the good message with also the truth of when I get upset, because both of those sides are revealing various truths to myself about my belief system, or old wounding, remorse, regret, or even optimism and hope for going forward today and going forward. And I think the best thing that I did have help coming up with is, you can do one thing every day, and that's to tell the truth about what is going on today. And then you're not going to have to experience being having your donkey, no, I don't know if it's having your donkey overloaded, but you're not going to be um, getting buried under so much stuff that you're deciding not to deal with because you'd rather be in a happy place all of the time. If you just be honest with it about it right now, then you're not going to be having so much that you have to go back and resolve later. And so that is the statement about the REB. Now, I could turn that one successful abortion into another weaving aspect, in that um, that that um, you know sometimes the death of the experience of death in some areas of your life is necessary for the growth of yourself. And you can take that very deeply, because if you're hanging on to something such as your parents or your childhood or ancient ways of thinking, which stunts your ability to grow as a person, those things need to die off so you can live. Okay, so you can take that element into, you can see the good in some things that were really seem like they would be really bad, but you can also see how you could have made a better choice. So that's like, that is not, I don't think that's not pardoning myself or anybody else from these choices. It's that, it's it's the recognition of, like, what do you do to be a good caring person if, like, you think, if you're in two different viewpoints of thinking that you could help make a difference in somebody's life by speaking up about what you care about, but also that you value another person's uh, privilege to be able to make decisions for their self, but you also know that everybody might be able to make different decisions if they had, um, you know, more perspective from their friends or their family or whoever they're spending their time with. Because if you actually talk with a person, then the person might be like, "Oh, I never even thought about it like that. My thoughts were in a completely different direction about what I thought the consequences of this choice I was about to make was." So it's like, do you speak up to prevent somebody from um, making a choice that you believe that they're gonna suffer with afterwards? And I think the answer to that question is yes. Now, if they have already suffered and you don't, like, know what to do with that now, I think that, these kind of conversations can be helpful. So I'm still not going to jump into, like, being for sure about what Ren is suggesting. I just think that even when I am trying, like the same thing I said before, even when I'm trying to, that I'd rather him do things the way I want to do things, that if he did things the way I wanted him to do things, we wouldn't be making the kind of progress that we are making, um, because we're able to, like, piece these thoughts together. And he's smart. He's definitely smart. I don't, like, I do appreciate you, Ringil. Now, is that your real name? He says yes. See, that's also significant because, like, at one point before my grandmother died, she asked my grandfather to take me on two dates. One was to the West Texas rehab dinner, and the singer was Charlie Pride. Now, that's another thing. The death of Charlotte would be another kind of symbolism of losing my maiden name if we went that far. But then the other date that I went on, and I'm saying date, we just rode together and went to these two different places. But the other place that I went with him was um, to the Hardin Simmons lecture about an atheist and a Christian becoming friends, and they played that Shrek song. Um, I thought love was only a fairy tale, and now I'm a believer. After I saw her face, I think is how the lyrics goes. I think it was originally a Beatles song, but that was what our conversation after that dinner was. That he said that he didn't know if he liked the the conversation about how it's possible for people, for an atheist and a Christian to be friends. Maybe because, like, I don't know why, he said he preferred the music. So that was like um a memory I had with him. And so these things like connect in a sort of future building sort of way, where I can have appreciation for other people, is what I would like to say. I very much related to Charlotte's Web when Fern gets a boyfriend and then the pig has to go live outside because she no longer wants to baby an animal. She's interested in being in a relationship with a mate, a love partner, and that's when Wilbur meets the spider. So that's like, oh yeah. What was the other thing? Um, when I and this kind of connects both with Joe and Ren, because it reminds me of a thing that I used to do when I was at the school psychology program at ACU. My focus, like when I actually got to work with real children, I didn't want to really read my textbook very much anymore. I wanted to work with figure out what the children needed more than I did want to focus on passing tests. And so I was trying to think about different ways which would, okay, so I got to work with students, with a student who is supposed to be considered like in a troubled student, and then another boy, I think, I'm not sure, I think he had trouble at home, and they didn't want to do their classroom work, or that's what the story was. And so I, at that time, it was when an app came out where you could like talk into the phone and it came out as music. And so that was what I was trying to do when I was trying to get them excited about reading books, because I was like, well, if they don't really feel into reading, if we did it like that kind of way, I think it would be more enjoyable to them. And so that's what I tried. And that's when I guess that's when it was noticed that I was trying to do things that were beyond just getting instructions from the teacher or following the classroom rules. I was trying to think outside of what I was being told was important, and trying to figure that out for myself. Now, that's significant to me because of how this whole music element has come into place with Rin. And also, I I think I tried to, I don't know if I ever did it or I wanted to do it, but when my cousin first had a baby, I wanted to get him. I don't think I did it. I wanted him to have My Baby Can Read. Um, I just like that whole reading element is significant to me, and so it's like there seems to be a huge value that developed from me trying to do those things. That that was that kind of like thing I was trying to do for those children got turned around onto myself in a loving way to try and help me. And that that's the story. And I could go. I mean, there's so much more to these stories, but I'm gonna keep it kind of smaller for what I'm trying to take in. But as I said, that love does transmute out of what you take in, and so does the truth about what how you have responded to different emotionally um, or soulfully painful experiences. How did it make you a different person? So, or a transformed person. And that's that. I love you, baby. Not baby. Adult. Not adult. Sweetheart. Okay. I love you, sweetheart. Do 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 do. I hate to leave you, but I really must go. Good morning, sweetheart. Good morning.